respect you. Do I need a mic?
Nope.
No, perfect. I have a disclaimer to read for you. Welcome. We are building a Catholic culture awareness with assets, youth strengths, and mental health together. My name is Barb O'Connor. I'd like to read the following to you, please. Please be advised that this presentation will be videotaped. Although the camera will be focused on moi and not the audience, vous, bilingual session, you are asked to seat yourself outside of the videotaping area if you do not wish to be videotaped. Why? I don't know, but that's okay. I love a camera, I love a mic. Okay, welcome. I try to make sure that we can get as many people in as possible, so I was greeting you at the door. I hope that you've picked up the handouts. Contrary to what most people do where they go left to right, I actually set them up right to left. So you will be starting with the one that says Developmental Assets. It's a 2-page stapled and it has some shaded areas on it, but that's the one we're going to start with. Okay. Oh, we've got some friends. Hi. Please help yourself to one handout each, and there's a pen at the end, as well as a ticket to fill out if you need a pen to write with. And you will in my class, in my session. Okay. So, welcome again, and my name is Barb O'Connor. I'm a curriculum consultant with the Halton Catholic District School Board, whose portfolio emphasis is with health and physical education, risk management, and healthy schools, healthy communities. I'm part of the Halton Catholic District School Board Developmental Assets Committee. I'm also part of the Mental Health Leadership Team, as well as the Bullying Prevention Committee. As well, I'm on the Halton Region's Our Kids Network School Years Committee, which also has a subcommittee or a task force dealing with bullying prevention. So as you can see, I wanted to share some of my credentials with you so that you are aware of basically the depth and breadth of what I have and what my experience brings to the table. If you could please help yourself to the handouts. You're going to need one of each, and if you need a pen, there's some extras there for you to write with as well. Thank you. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to continue on. Yes. Thanks. I've had some training through the Search Institute, which is going to be a group that I reference frequently in this presentation, in delivering developmental asset workshops, and I've also done some work with restorative practice and some certification to run restorative practice circles. So basically that's who I am. I'm also a parent of 3 children, though now my children are 23, 21, and soon to be 20, so they have survived the statistical years, I call them. I will tell stories. I'm a storyteller. And often when I try to emphasize a particular concept or a component, I am going to share that with something that I did. Please, please, by no means am I saying I am parent perfect. I am far from that. But where I am right now is at the end of that particular journey. So they survived, so now it's really easy to share those stories that they survived with. So for all of you whose children are little, teenagers, there is light. Let me tell you, everyone tells you that. I stand before you with there being light. So, my goals of my presentation. Number 1, I'm going to revisit what this concept of building assets framework is. Developmental assets is a copyrighted title. It is based on a bit of information I'm going to share with you. Hi, please help yourself to the handouts and a pen if you need. Building assets is the nomenclature, is the title that we use in Halton Catholic. We actually started our September 4th PD Day with this concept so that every staff member in our board, teachers, CYC, social worker, EA, administrator, I've even worked with our education resource staff now. I am now working with our parents, as you can see here today, sharing the story of what building assets is all about. I have some stats for you. I'm going to show you some graphs, and I think by the end you're going to have the same aha moment I do. Well, if it works so well, why aren't we all doing it? And that's why we're here today. So, deepening your understanding of what those practical strategies are, I'm going to reference them. I'm going to bring you to a couple of websites that you can continue some personal learning, some professional learning of your own. We're going to celebrate the good works that you do. And one of the best works that you're doing is that you're here today. It's a Saturday before Remembrance Day. I'm sure if your children are involved in some sort of activity, they might be going off tomorrow to stand, hopefully not in the rain, to remember those that have gone before us. And yet you're here today to learn more about how to be that exceptional parent. So there's the good work that you yourself are already doing. And then I want to have you feel empowered, that when you leave my session today, you're going to make a commitment, and you're going to say, yes, today I'm going to do this, and I have until Wednesday to at least do it. So that there's going to be an action item for you upon leaving this group. So it's not a sit back and enjoy, a little bit, but it's going to be a sit back and reflect. I'm going to show you a little clip, and it is about assets in action. And my goal today is really about this type of a flow. To have you first self-reflect your memories. How did you get to where you are today? What went on in your life? So as you're watching, I want you to think about that. How did I get here? How did I become a parent? Basically the meaning of life, to a certain extent. What are assets? What are the impact of those assets? Because that's the big part about today. You're going to tell me about these assets, Barb. That doesn't mean anything. It means something to me when I can see the link of how it's going to help me deal with those things that you're not in my house to deal with. And then finally about the parents and the assets. And that's your own continued personal learning and option to do that. I'm very animated. I apologize ahead of time, number one, for my glasses. I seem to not be able to hear people when they're on, so I've got to take them off and then go on and off. I'm at that stage. And sometimes some of my stories may be stories that are going, I don't know how this applies to me. It applies to the concept that I'm really trying to address, and I'm trying to bring a real world example for you. So at this point, I'm going to show you about assets.
Validated. You are awesome.
Excuse me?
You have an amazing face. You've got powerful features, man. Anyone ever tell you that?
No.
Then listen. You look a little down. And it may seem like sometimes people don't understand you. But someday, man, someday, people are gonna see you for what you really are.
Sound familiar?
You really think so?
Absolutely. You are great.
Need a validation, please?
You are great, ma'am. You have amazing cheekbones.
Really?
Sir, yes. We have a situation.
Where?
What the hell's going on?
You've been through it. You know. You've had so much life experience that other people don't appreciate, but you know.
Plus you do.
They're not patronizing the shops. They're just coming to see him.
Oh, sir. You're in great shape. You work out?
Not for long.
I do, actually. A bit. Yeah, thanks.
Young man, we are running a business here, not a social club.
That is a fantastic suit. It really flatters you.
You think so?
You guys work so hard. You are the backbone that keeps this place running.
It always felt like no one really appreciated us.
Yeah, you know, our jobs are so stressful, and it seems like most of the times people just don't see it.
No, what you do is so important.
You know, I bet the boss would love to meet you.
You are great. You provide hundreds of jobs, sustaining hundreds of families. It's huge.
It's so good to hear. Most times I feel like people don't recognize that. I'm just the big bad man on the hill.
Not at all. You give.
You know, I know some people who probably would like to meet you.
Mr. President.
And I'm going to stop that at this point. It goes on for a little bit more and actually unfolds a very nice story, but I think you get my gist here. Bishop Crosby this morning, if you were able to attend the Mass, talked about the communication piece and the openness of communication. I really should have just said, thank you, Bishop. You've just done my session. Y'all get that. He's brought the Catholicity link to it. We're good to go. today's session that I have for you really builds a little bit more totally on that, a bit more deeply on what he was talking about and why it's so important and what it does. So I'd like to share a story with you at this point. In my career, what I do now as a consultant is I also take care of athletics in our board, elementary and secondary. And a couple of years ago, I had to help out my colleagues because we were in playoff session with the elementary basketball, and I had to get to a site because they didn't have all the volunteers, and I was going to do the scoring and the timing. Yay. It was at the end of a day like this, a lot of learning, and then I had to do a presentation, a workshop. The last place I wanted to go at 4 o'clock in the afternoon was again to head on over the other end of Burlington when I live up in Milton and have to sit and watch the game and know that I'm going to be upset with perhaps some of the playing levels because again, we're at the win at all costs kind of session and that's not what we're about. So I thought, well, I'm not going without a coffee. I'm getting a coffee, it has to happen. So at that new one on Burl Oak, just below the QEW, a nice one, I pulled into there and I had one of those roll up the rim tickies. And I was not only was I going to get a coffee, but I was going to get it for free. So I pulled in, got to the little window or little box, and I said, hi, I'd like a coffee, please. No, the girl answered first. Well, she goes, hi, how can I help you? I'd like a coffee, please, and I have a tickie. And she responds, oh my goodness, congratulations, that's great. And I went, it's a tickie for coffee, it's not $1 million. What is going on here? So I went, oh, thanks. She goes, yeah, come on up to the window. So I thought, okay, and as I'm going around, I'm thinking, this has changed my demeanor. By the fact that this person just congratulated and was happy for me, genuinely happy, that I had a tickie for a coffee, I'm feeling a little bit better. So I got to the window. Remember, you know those Staples buttons? You know, you push it and it goes, that was easy. She goes, bang, that was easy, congratulations. And I'm like, thanks, here's my tickie. And then I started to think, oh my gosh, she's changed me today. So I stopped and I went, this is an opportunity. This is a spontaneous moment for me to tell this young girl, a high school student, how much I appreciated her demeanor, how much I appreciated her saying those nice things to me to make me feel better. So I started to tell her, thank you very much, you're great, you just changed my day. By the way, Tim Hortons is so fortunate to have you working for them. She was really nice. This adult lady, older lady, was behind her on the side. And she's wondering, like, why is this conversation going on between the window and a car? And she's looking and she can hear me say these things to this young lady. And I think she looked confused because that's usually not the behavior that happens at a Tim Hortons window. And yet here was this opportunity for this girl to hear from me what she had done for me. So kind of a give and a take. What do you think happened with the next person that that girl had to serve? Or what do you think was going to happen or would happen? Anybody?
They like to do this thing.
They might like to, they would like to have that again, but how do you think that young girl felt about wanting to do that for the next person? Why? Because she had that one time, exactly. She realized that what she was doing was purposeful, that it was worthwhile, that it had some impact. And again, why not do it again? Even if it was the nastiest, crabbiest person who was in a hurry wanting to go somewhere. We do impact each other. We are human. And as humans, we seek relationship. We always seek relationship. We always seek to find someone to help us. In other words, to value us. It's an important piece. Okay, you have a purple sheet in your package. You're not going to have a lot of time because we're on a real crunch time now. What I'd like you to do is to take that purple sheet. It lists all the 40 assets. So right now you're saying, Barb, just give me what those 40 assets are. It's not as simple as that. There are 40. I'm going to ask you to read quickly and do the activity. Check off the true and the false. Which ones apply to you? You're going back to think about your elementary years. If you can remember, I know I can't. Your secondary school years, your young adult years. Think back there. Which of those assets would you say were part of building who you are? So quickly check through them. If you can, in the timeline, do a couple of things. Number one, circle the one you think had the greatest impact on you, and also count up the number of truths, the number of assets you had in your life. So So this is almost like association. Read, check, read, check, read, check. No thinking aloud. Now you know what it's like for kids to take a test. You're running out of time. 1 minute left. Oh, jeez. I need more time, sir. There is no right or wrong answer. Again, once you've done the tickies, I'm asking you to circle the one that you think had the greatest impact and also counting up all the trues. How many check marks of true did you get? Down to our last 12 seconds. I know I was unfair and unreasonable with the timelines, my apologies, but I did want us to move forward. And hopefully you had a chance to really go through, at least on a surface level, what those assets are described as. Anyone willing to tell me now which was the one that they felt had the greatest impact on their life? Yes?
Mine was, I received support from 3 or more adults, non-parent adults.
Okay, so 3 or more non-parent adults. Anyone else with one that was slightly different? Yep.
I feel that I had control over things that happened to me. Just learned that lesson early, that I have control of my life.
How would you have learned that?
Probably experiences and the opportunities that were provided to me that I can experience that.
By
Or adults in my life. Yeah, not on my
the
own.
adult in your life, okay? That falls under the internal assets, so you're going to see, as we go through them, that give and take part of it. Anyone else with any other one? Yes?
I received lots of love and support from my family.
Okay, so again, the adult and the knowing what my environment is all about, okay? Anyone else with anyone different? Yes?
I'm motivated to do well in school.
You're motivated, so you were motivated.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that my parents thought it was important. And even though I didn't do well in high school, I knew that I go to university, they expected that. And
How did you know that? What did they do to you? Or what did they do with you? Did they tell you?
well, I mean, I didn't do well in high school, and I could see, and then I went to work full time, and they didn't even get that upset. I could just see their disappointment.
But had they told you throughout your years that really you wanted to look for post-secondary education, that you needed to look to go that route, or did they just, how did you know that you should, that's where you should have gone?
I don't know. They didn't have like very clear conversations about it,
Okay,
but they
important.
did. Maybe somehow I knew.
Important to keep that in mind, because that's what we're here about today is, how do our children know? It's kind of neat when I'm an adult to reflect back and see, yeah, there were cues, but I don't know what those cues are. If we could figure out what those cues were,
Yeah.
oh my gracious, then we could do that now and not wait till they're 30 to say, oh geez, I should have listened. That's why we're here today. That's why you're here with me. Okay, so with reference to that purple sheet, I'd like you to take the sheet that looks like fun now. It looks like this. It's got peoples and places, asset building people and asset building places. I'd like you to circle all the people from the top part that you feel could have or did influence you in your asset building. So who on that list really impacted you? And then from the bottom, what types of places or where was your comfort place? Did you hang out in places, and how many of them were you or did you frequent? So both parts, circle the ones that, all the ones that apply in your life. The important one is the bottom one too, the places. Did you have assets built for you in any of those places? Were they built for you when you were at school? Were they built for you when you played? Were they built for you if you were in athletics or in a gym? Were they there for you if you were at church? Were they there for you if you were in the library? Where were the places that you ran into people, or you went with colleagues, you went with friends, that you really nurtured who you were and how you became? Is there anyone that doesn't have anything circled on the bottom, in the bottom list? No, everyone's got something circled. Proof positive just in this group that, again, relationships happen in every place. And we, no matter where we are, today you're here today, you just had lunch, there was some sort of a relationship. Did you speak to somebody? Humans seek relationships. We are human beings, and we seek to find other relationships. At this point, I like to segue often into we are created in God's image, so when I seek relationship with you, I'm really seeking relationship with God, and it's the naturalness of our Halton Catholic District School Board. One of the other things that we know is that being accepted is huge. Bishop Crosby talked about that this morning too. We all seek that. Believe it or not, humans are wired. They're wired to look for being liked, being accepted. We do. Studies have done the following. They've taken like the worst group that you have absolutely no regard for, the terrorists, all these groups that just are the bane of society. And in particular, one of them they looked at was the Ku Klux Klan. Despite consciously and subconsciously knowing that I don't want to have anything to do with that group, I don't want to be associated with that group, if that group comes out and says, you know what, Barb, we don't like you, we feel, no, you can't not like me. I cannot like you, but you cannot like me because I'm good. And so we seek that affirmation no matter who it comes from. So if I segue this quickly to the idea of bullies and the whole idea of the standby, in the standby situation, when that person, that third party, looks at a bully and says, not a nice thing for you to do, you've got to stop that, even the bully, and that's why the bully responds and goes, well, and they say that if you do that to a bully, they're going to stop doing what they do. It's because of that wiring, that wanting to be accepted. Very simple strategy, but it is the beginning of that. So that's why being able to understand what our relationship is important. Well, did you know the following? That if all young people experience that 3 to 5 caring adults as they grow up, that they're going to actually build assets? And can you articulate who those 5 are other than the parents? Do you know what a youth says is important in their life? Not what you think is important in their life. Do you know what they're saying is important in their life? Relationships. When I do this, and I've been doing this for a number of years now with my colleagues in teaching, one of the things I remind them, I tell a story again, I say, you know what, you've got Mary. Mary walks in at the beginning of your class, all the other kids are in, and you see Mary and her eyes are all red. And Mary sits down, and she's sobbing. And you know that something's bothering Mary. You don't know what it is because you've got to get on with your class, but you see that Mary's uncomfortable. Mary raises her hand. Miss, can I be excused? I said, yeah, you go ahead, Mary. And then Sally raises her hand. Miss, can I go with Mary? What's our usual response? Sorry? No. No, Mary doesn't need you to go to the bathroom with her. Yeah, Mary needs Sally. Because in our emotional state, we seek relationship, we seek that feedback. So I try to bring these kinds of concepts with respect to the asset basis to our colleagues, to my adults, to help them understand that it's more than just about discipline and it's more than just about what things are. It is about looking at what is important for those youth. Well, do you know how to meet their needs? Just talked about that. Do you know if you can influence the result of being connected? Do you know with your children at home, can you influence how they feel about being connected? Or are you hoping they're doing it on their own and you're just going to be that good nurturing parent? I'm asking you some really, really tough questions. Memory lane number 2. Think about your kids. Think about the friends of your kids. Think about your neighborhood. And I want you to think of 2 youth that you know, other than your kids. 2 youth. And on the back of the purple sheet, I'd like you to write their name down. And what I'd like you to think about is them for the rest of this presentation. Often with my teachers, I'm asking them to think about that child that if the principal came up and said, you get to transfer a kid out of your class because you've got too many students, you go, I know which one. No, that's not the one you get to transfer. So I want you to think, if it can be that youth at risk, if it can be that youth that, I'm not really liking them with my kids, I want you to write that kid's name down. And I want you to think about them throughout today. Okay, so what is the developmental asset framework? As I said, developmental assets is a copyrighted name. It's research work and identification through the Search Institute in the United States, and I'll speak a little bit about that. In our board, we've done a focused effort to do building assets, and it is based on the developmental asset framework. It's our way to collectively and uniformly understand what it is to promote positive child-youth development. Our students are Catholic graduates. They're going to be Catholic graduates with Catholic graduate expectations. But it's more than them knowing that I've got to be a discerning adult. The question is, how do you become that? What do you need to do in order to demonstrate that? So we always have these nice labels, but we don't always populate that with, well, what do I do in order to achieve that? And that's what I'm hoping we can do today. In addition, it's grounded in research. The Search Institute, for now about 20 years, has surveyed over 3 million youth. Schools in the States go to the Search Institute to get the survey as well. We have one of our own, but over 3 million youth were asked a number of questions, different surveys. And what we have found from that work is that 40 assets or 40 items, 40 characteristics, qualities emerged. And what it was the students, the youth, the children telling us that when these things, these 40 things that you just did, the purple sheet with, are in my life, I will, A, choose not to engage in risk behavior, and B, I will be motivated and focused to work and to become a successful citizen, a achieving individual. Well, how many of those 40? Because that's really what we're coming down to. What are those 40 all about? The Halton Youth Survey, and you may have seen this. It's black and white, but there are colored ones. In Halton, we have a partnership, a network called the Our Kids Network. Anyone ever hear of the Our Kids Network? Oh, good, because I'm going to show you the website. You're going to love it to death. The Our Kids Network is Halton. It is a number of partners and protocol partners who have come together, and they've recognized that Halton is very diverse from north to south, east to west. And they've also recognized as partners that there are some areas where certain services are lacking, and in other cases we have tons of services. So the object here is one thing, that all kids in Halton will thrive. So what do we need to provide in order to have them thrive? So we, with the Halton Catholic District School Board, the public board, and a number of the partners, we hold a survey every 4 years, I think it is, and what we do is we use the basis of the developmental assets questions, and we find out information about our own students. So when I show you the data in a few minutes, that's data of our kids. It's not about a kid down in Florida. It's not about a kid up in Temiskaming. It is about our kids in Halton. It's what they're telling us. This October, we're going to have the survey again in its 3rd cycle. Questions are a little bit more refined, so we're going to get even better data about what our kids are telling us that is and isn't in their lives. So even more information for us as parents to realize where and what I need to put my efforts on. There are 2 types of assets. So basically, if you look at the purple sheet, if you take a look at this one as well, this lists all the 40 assets. The shaded ones are the ones that were on the Halton Youth Survey. So it's a white one that looks like a bunch of shaded lines. They're not break lines. The shaded questions are the ones that were on the Halton Youth Survey. So you'll actually get a chance to see what kinds of questions were asked of the student, of the youth, to be able to give us information of their perspective on the asset. The external assets are those that identify the relationships and the activities that create the positive environment. So they're kind of the external pieces. They include support. Support is about loving, caring relationships, appreciation, and acceptance. So we talk about what does that look like in our environment, in my home environment. Empowerment's a big one, big one. Poor Nathan, he's my partner today. He's sitting through this the 2nd time. I'm hoping at the end of this he goes, yeah, your 2nd presentation was better than your 1st one. Yeah, all over the top. But we know that often with youth, we want to involve them and we want to empower them. And so we say, do you want to help with a project? I've got a great project we can do. And the kid says, yeah, I'd love to. So off we go and say, okay, we're going to run a tournament. We need to get this, and this done. Which one do you want to sign up for? Okay, great, you've got that one. Tournament turns around, off you go and do it. We feel we've empowered them. Did we empower them? No. We said, we're going to run a program, we're going to be really great at it, and you're going to be the gopher. They didn't have any say as whether that should or shouldn't happen. Think about the home. When you have certain functions. Christmas. My adult children to this day stay out of my hair. Mom, what do you need done? Do you need the house cleaned? Okay, go in the kitchen. You know that we're only going to ask her a question that she's going to get all upset about because she's got her mindset going, and off we go. So it's not about the we on that day, it's about Mom making sure things are done. Nathan and I were just talking at lunchtime, and I said, in our family, I clearly articulated, I don't want surprises. But in talking with them, I realized that I probably, when they were younger, didn't describe what surprise really meant. They probably meant it was like, oh, guess what? And although it was that, what I didn't articulate to them was the impact of that surprise. And I probably would have had a lot less issue over time if I was able to say, when you come and tell me at the last minute that this is what you are going to do or what we're going to do, in my mind I start thinking, is the house clean enough? Do I have food in the fridge? Can I feed the people? Am I going to be home? Oh gracious, that's on the day that I'm doing the presentation to the CPIC conference. I'm not going to be there, so I've got to get this all done the Friday night. Wait a minute, I'm doing last minute tweaks. The surprise wasn't the problem. The surprise was them understanding the domino effect that went on in my mind of what had to happen. Had I explained that when they were younger about what surprise means to me, they probably would have understood better why surprise was a harder thing for a parent than perhaps it might be for the child. So that idea of empowerment is really crucial. Do they have a chance to contribute? Do they feel safe and valued? And it's the valued part that's really important. Boundaries and expectations. I think we all agree with that. We sure as heaven hope the schools have boundaries and expectations. What are my boundaries and expectations at home? We all start with them well-intentioned. Here are the rules, bingo. And then along comes first situation. You've been so good. You've got to bend that rule a little. Are they part of those rules? Do the rules grow with them? do the rules change as their development changes? My child at 20, finishing, 19 I guess, finishing high school. Of course, what do? They all go off to Wasaga Beach in June. Mom, can I go to Wasaga Beach? No. You gotta be kidding me. Are you allowed to get a car and drive to Wasaga Beach? Nobody, lives are lost and people are lost in Wasaga Beach? Oh, Barb, stop. They're 19. There are some kids around the world that are already living a full life at 19. Okay, so here's our compromise and our growth. If you can provide me with additional evidence, rationale and reason and evidence as to why I should change my mind, it's got to be valid, we can continue the conversation. So the child is valued, the child is given information, the youth, to be able to rethink this, provide additional information as to why. And then I have an opportunity not to look like I back down, but to get into the conversation. Because now I'm truly respecting them as the adult. Now, if you come back and say, because I'll be careful when I drive, well, that's not a reason. That's not changing the evidence. I know you're going to be a good driver, because don't tell me that the other 20 times you're out on the road, you're not. Because if that's the case, the car is gone. What is it that you will change, or that you can guarantee that therefore I can change my mind? That change of behavior, that change of conversation is what involves them, because now they own where they're going to go. They own part of that support. So that the rules are consistent and the consequences are consistent. That there is encouragement. That I do listen, perhaps, if the rule is too restricting. Why? And telling me because Mary doesn't do it, her parents let her. It's not quite the answer. We said that, and I'm sure you've all said it. So if Mary jumped off the cliff, would you go as well? Oh, wait a minute, I'm hearing my mother again in me. Constructive use of time. This one is a little bit iffy. What does constructive use of time really, really mean? Well, according to the Search Institute and the students, it's time well spent outside the classroom and school. Okay, time